Hello everyone, and welcome to Drawing with Aron. In this series of videos, we're going to cover how to draw some mythological animals, like some dragons or some unicorns, elves, stuff like that. One of the frequent things that people say to me is that they wish that they could draw better, but they can barely draw a stick man. And in order to draw like a stick man, you have to be able to draw like a circle and a line. And if you can draw a circle and a line, then you can already draw pretty much anything you'd ever need to draw. What a lot of people don't learn about art, and they gave up on art so early on, is that drawing is a process. And there are steps to take during it. The only thing that really separates a beginner from a professional artist is the professional artist has developed a series of processes that they carry out while they're drawing, that helps them build up their layers, that helps them build up their shapes. Whereas like a beginner just tries to do it in one take, just do it flat out right like that. And some people, after they've developed some skills, maybe they can just go all out in one stroke. But most people don't really work like that. A lot of people work in layers and build up. One of the big common mistakes that I see people make is that they try to draw with like a pen or a marker right off the bat. I personally never do that. I almost never go straight pen to paper. I almost always build up my layers and build out my composition with just a simple mechanical pencil. The reason why I always start with a pencil, whether it's like a number 2 pencil or a mechanical pencil, this is just what I have, it's just what I use, is that you can draw very, very lightly and like build out your composition, lay out your elements where you want things to go. And then you can start building outwards. And then when it gets to the point where you're ready for pen and ink, you can lay down your base lines, like your structural lines, with your pen. And then you can go through and erase all of your pencil work with like a simple eraser. Or you can have a combination of pen and pencil, and that can work sometimes too. But really what I want to cover today is just starting out lightly and building out our shapes and our composition. So today we're going to start drawing dragons. Let's jump right in. So to start off, we want to kind of think about where our dragon is going to be in the composition. Today we probably won't cover a full dragon. We'll probably mostly focus largely on his head, because that seems to be the part that everyone else wants to know about. And once you kind of figure out the head and the neck, then that pretty much sets the stage for the rest of the image. So let's kind of start with an egg shape. Okay, that's not really that complicated. A lot of people can draw a pretty simple egg. And what we're going to do in our drawing is we're just going to focus on a series of very small movements, just a simple series of shapes. So let's give him some eyes. Very lightly, the reason why we're starting with a pencil is because we're going to go over very lightly and just kind of build out the composition from there. And then we're going to go over a pen, so it really doesn't matter too much, but we want to go lightly, because if we go too heavy on the pencil, then we won't be able to really erase it later, and you kind of like leave like those like indentations in the paper. So we're going to try to avoid that. So we're going to kind of give him an eye, making a shape almost like an orange wench, really. And then we're going to come up here, and we're going to kind of follow this line, and we're going to repeat it here, and that's going to kind of form his brow. So here is the kind of like the crown of his little lizard head, and here is his eye. Now we're going to kind of move out the shape. And that is going to make his little lizard face is going to kind of move. And all we did was just make a simple curve. Just go really lightly. And let's see. There are many different styles of dragons. I think today we're going to do a Dragonlance style of dragon. Those kind of dragons often had a series of horns around the frill of their neck. So we're going to give him some simple little spiky shapes coming off his head. These are almost kind of like whiskers. And they get smaller as they go. Don't be afraid to give it like a little bit of a curve. We don't want the horns to be too straight. And then there's like a little bit of webbing in between the whiskers. Maybe he's an amphibious sea dragon, I don't know. And usually on top of their head they have two large horns. So we're going to make a kind of a spiky shape, just a simple shape, nothing too crazy. And then mirroring this one on the other side, we're going to come out and make a similar curve. Now I see we've already, the idea of the dragon is already starting to take shape, and all we've done is draw like a few simple shapes in here. It's just, if you can make an egg shape, if you can kind of make like a little curve or like a little spiky shape, you can basically draw a dragon. We kind of come underneath, and a lot of people kind of get to this point of the drawing and kind of have to decide, do I want to make my dragon have their mouth open with their teeth showing, or is his mouth going to be closed? A lot of people usually draw their dragons with their mouth closed because it's a lot easier to draw. When you start trying to open up the jaw, it makes things like a little bit more difficult moving forward. But just for the sake of this lesson, we're going to draw him with his mouth open. And I'll kind of walk you through that process. Pretty much every species you can think of has a recessed jawline. And what I mean by that is that their jaw, their chin, does not stick out further than like their nose. There's always a recessed line backwards. Most lizards are really no different. So if we've kind of extended his snout outwards, give us a little bit of room to work and make his face a little bit longer and more dramatic. So if his nose is coming out to here, then his mouth can't come out to here, because now his jaw is kind of like sticking out past his snout. So we're going to scale that back a little bit. That might look right at the time, but we're actually going to kind of scale this back. And if his mouth is going to be open, it's going to change that line from being like this down to like that. So I'm going to give myself a little guiding line right here. I'm going to come in, and this is why we work in pencil, so that we can come back in and change our mistakes. Now, if you try to just draw a dragon with like marker or a pen, once you make a line, you're stuck dealing with it. And so you should never really do that. That's something I really try to stay away from when I'm drawing. I almost always start with my pencil. So we've made, so his nose comes out to here. So we have like that line, right? So his nose comes out to here, and we want his jaw to recess. So to keep ourselves from making his nose come out too much, we're going to give ourselves, we made this line, that's where his snout is. We're going to cut this line back to about here. Okay, so now we can see that his jaw cannot go past this line. So now we kind of have that established. I'm going to make a rounded curve, and it's going to come up and meet his jaw. And see, just like that, we have the body dimensions of his little face. So I'm going to come in here and erase some of my guidelines so I don't get tripped up and confused later on. You can see right here I've made a pretty heavy line, but that's okay, because we can just erase it later on. Now over here we kind of have to decide how far back, pulling back, is his mandible. Now the jaw might kind of extend back to here, but his face isn't. So right about here is where the mouth opening will be. So kind of coming down from here and around, this is going to be the opening of his mouth. So you might find yourself feeling like, where do I go from here? Well, one of the easiest ways to work our way outward, you could try to draw in his mouth in here and then try to do the teeth, but then you're kind of working over your own lines. So I'm kind of going to work myself inwards, starting with his front, like the big pronounced canines. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to make almost like a small horn shape over here. Well, see, I had that line here. So if this tooth comes down to here, this tooth can't go down to like here. Like your teeth kind of have to match up. Gonna have some big sharp teeth. And then down here, we're gonna give him like some crazy shark teeth, I guess. Just make a series of little kind of curved triangular shapes. He needs a trip to the dentist. You know what? There we go. Give him a broken tooth. Makes him even crazier looking. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to erase this line. And see, we have, that's a pretty good start to a dragon. His jaw is kind of recessed a little bit, so we're going to kind of make it come in. But actually, you know what? That's not going to matter. A lot of people like to draw a dragon with a kind of like a little tongue sticking out. A lot of lizards actually smell, not through their nostrils, but through their tongue. So we're going to give this guy a little forked tongue. Just come out, follow that line, and then it's going to be kind of like a little ribbon. Give it like a little line up, and now he's got a little going on. So moving down, we don't want him to have like a flimsy little glass jaw. We want him to have kind of a big jaw. It's okay to come in and erase some of your guiding lines as we go. It's okay. It'll take shape. Now, none of the lines that we're really working on right now really matter. Because this is just setting the stage for the guiding lines that we're going to do with our pen. So don't worry too much about making mistakes. We're going to come up and follow this line. We're going to round out the shape. You know what? See, this is why you work in pencil first. You know what? I don't like quite where that horn is. The horn is like a little bit too much in the center of his head and not coming off the sides. So how do I place my horn? That's an awesome question. I thank you for asking. Let's get right in here. So we have this brow line, okay, that kind of follows his skull. And his horn here is coming off. So the other horn has to be kind of parallel coming off. So we're going to give him like a little bit of a brow here. We might have to kind of reshape this. Reshape the structure. And then we're going to come over here and see how this horn is. It's okay to reshape. It's okay to kind of sketch out. It doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. We're just kind of getting our leading lines down. Now, that's a little bit better. So we're going to kind of come up, and this is the base of his horn. And we're going to wrap around. We're just going to envelop that shape. Okay? You know what? This horn, even though I like it, isn't quite as far back as I need it to be. That's okay. So we're going to kind of come back. You can just kind of make a pointy shape. Generally, that's kind of like as long as you'd want like a horn to be. You don't want to get too crazy with the horns. You don't want the horn to be like half the length of the body, you know. Scale it back a little. Okay, so now we're going to focus on the eyes. We have the basic structure of his head made using just a series of simple shapes. And the eye will be no different. First, we kind of need to decide where he's looking. Is he looking forward? Is he looking at you? Like, right at you? Right back down. Okay. Or is he kind of looking down? What is our dragon looking at? I don't know. Let's just have him looking this way. So we're going to kind of make a round shape. Imagine kind of drawing, and you can even draw like a little circle. Okay, so like that's where your dragon's eye is looking. And a lot of times in science fiction or fantasy, when you have monsters like dragons or some kind of space alien, they kind of have like a little slit for an eye. So we're not going to make a circle for his pupil. We're going to give it like that, like little wedge of a shape, like a cat eye. And we're going to follow up here. And we're going to kind of keep this. And maybe I can try to erase that a little bit. And see, there we have our dragon's eye. Just like that. Now we're not going to get too detailed. Not yet. Not until we get to the pen work. And right now we're just laying it all out. So here I'm going to make like a question mark. Yep. Ooh, that's not good. Womp womp. Okay, so we're going to make kind of a question mark shape, but not as pronounced as that one. So off here, we're going to give them like a little question mark. See? Not that complicated. And then over here, so it's almost like another semi question mark facing the other way. And then we're going to kind of, this is going to be kind of like his nostrils. You know, he's going to have big nostrils. There we go. Big fire-breathing dragon, got to have some big nostrils. You won't see the nostrils because they would actually be on this side, so we're not going to color it in here. And now he's going to have kind of like a ridgy face. We're going to give little tiny, little circular shapes, and then kind of come across, and come across. And we're going to give it like some kind of lines around his face. Got some bags under his eyes. He hasn't slept in a while. Chasing hobbits around. So I think that's a pretty good start for our dragon. Pretty detailed. Now, you know, just keep in mind it looks, when you look at the overall thing, it looks pretty complicated, but following this step-by-step process, it's really just a series of very simple shapes that we're following. Okay. And, you know, we're not going to draw the whole dragon. We're just going to have his neck coming down. So you just make kind of like a curve, a curve. And one of the big mistakes that people make is that they make a dragon's neck too skinny. Too skinny. Nobody likes a skinny dragon neck. Nobody. So we're going to kind of flesh this out, curve it out a little bit. See, you know, even I make mistakes. Even I don't draw perfect curves. And one of the mistakes that people make is they make their dragon's neck too skinny. Nobody likes the skinny dragon neck. Nobody. So, what we're gonna do is, well, you can try to find something. Like, is that too thick? You don't want their neck to be thinner than their head. You kind of want it to be about the same thickness. So what you can do is you can go pinchy fingers. Okay. So we're going to kind of come up here and see where that is. Okay, kind of pinch your dragon. Go pinch. I'm pinching the dragon. Pinch your dragon and come down the neck and place your fingers and kind of make a little line. And come down. Make a little line. Come down. Little line. Even further down. Make another line. Okay. So, now we can see we have our little tiny tick marks that we made. And that will give us our dragon neck. So we're just going to kind of connect the dots. You know, it might get a little thicker as it goes down. And there you go. We have now drawn our dragon's neck. He's got like kind of a crook in his neck here. So I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna kind of smooth that out. Smooth it out. All right, that's a good place to be, I think. So now we're moving on to the fun stuff. We're moving into pen. You can use any kind of pen that you like. I generally prefer black pens. I don't really like to draw with blue pens, like a blue big ballpoint pen. I personally can't stand them. These are microns. These are, kind of artsy kind of pens. You don't need to have a pen like this. One of the things that's nice about a pen like this is that they come in different tip sizes, and they dry fairly quickly. Some pens that you would draw with, the ink doesn't dry very quickly, and when you're drawing, you might accidentally smudge or smear your ink around, and now you've kind of ruined your painting or your drawing. So, like painting, what you want to do is you don't want to like be drawing down here and then move up to here, because your hand will be smudging where you just went, and you're smudging your ink around before it's dried. So what you want to do, you almost always want to do this in art. This is like one of my big pieces of advice for people, whether you're painting or you're doing pen and ink illustration, is if you're right-handed, start in the top left corner and work your way down diagonally. So you're working as you go down, and you're not smearing with your hand. Trying to hold your hand up and drawing without touching the paper is actually really hard. Same thing with painting. You don't want to be painting something down here and then move up here and have your sleeve rub against the drawing and smear the paint around. So if you're left-handed, you start in your top right corner and you move to the bottom left. If you're right-handed, start in the top left, move to the bottom right, move down across so you're not smearing your image. Professional tip number 200. Okay, let's jump in. We're going to start with his eyes. Now, we're not really doing our texture work yet. We're just laying down our foundational lines. So really what we're doing is we're just going to trace what we just did. And we're basically just kind of going over. We're not really worried about detail. We just want to outline our image enough. Let's back up a little bit. We just want to back off and draw just the outline information that we will need. Give him like a little bit of a wavy line. Doesn't have to be a perfect smooth line. Now leave those detail lines for later. too much. And as you practice this kind of technique, you kind of will learn where you want to, what lines you need to make and what lines you can leave out. For your detail work. Right now we're just setting up our foundational lines. And now we can, well, we'll start this line. We don't want to go too far yet. So from here, we can start doing more detail-y kind of stuff. Let's get right back into his face. So in his eyes, we're going to give tiny little marks. Just these tiny little marks around his eyes. And we'll kind of come in. And we're just going to make like these tiny little lines. Kind of show the texture around like the bags of his eyes. See? Can come in here and kind of give that. And so now we can, now I think my ink is dried enough. I can come out and I can start erasing some of my lines from my pencil. And it'll give it a much cleaner look, as you were about to see. See how that really opens up his face? All we were doing with the pencil was just kind of setting the foundation for the fun stuff that comes now. Now, can you draw a triangle? Like, let's move this around a little bit. Like that. Can you draw a triangle? Can you draw a rounded triangle? So if you can draw a triangle or a rounded triangle, you can draw scales. All we're going to do is just follow this simple shape. You can start off with using, kind of like a normal triangle, or you can try to do a rounded triangle if that works out well for you. Or you could even just kind of make some circles. So if you can go like this, or you can go like this, you can make scales. Now it's time for the details. Now the fun begins. Okay, so let's get started in with some scales. We're just going to kind of make a bunch of little triangles that are kind of offset from each other. I don't recommend starting here and kind of working your way back. They move away. They point away from the face. Don't have them going the other way. So we're gonna just come in, and they don't even have to be connecting. You're just making a bunch of tiny little kind of carrot shapes. I'm doing it kind of loose. You can come in and you can kind of make it as tight as you want to, depending on how much space you have or how much time you have. Okay, so now that we're done with our scales, we're going to come in and we're going to do some detail work around the eyes and around his mouth. Let's get that finished up. So right now, just in the corner, I'm going to darken that up. Give a little bit of weight to the eyes and fill in that pupil. Come down here and fill in that little black space for his nostril. And remember, there isn't one over on this side. We have kind of a hanging line right over here. So we're going to tidy that up. Now his tongue, give it like a little, give it some little tiny marks. Just so it kind of has some impression of a texture. Maybe we'll just give it some dots. Gotta have something going on. Yeah, that's not bad. You know what? Just for giggles, let's come in and give his eye just a tiny little bit of dots. Okay, so as you can see down here, around the teeth, they're just kind of hanging in space. They're not really connected to anything. That is on purpose, my friend. We haven't drawn in his gums. So we're just going to kind of come in and give it kind of like a swirly line. And that's going to make his gums. We're just going to come in using just this little bit of a wiggle. We're going to connect and draw in all of his gums. Same thing on the bottom. Draw a line that's kind of behind the teeth. And back into his mouth. Now we're going to kind of seal up the bottoms of the little open-ended pyramids to make his teeth. And there you go. You could kind of come in and fill this all in black, but you know, just for the purposes of this, I don't usually mix pencil with ink, but you know, we want to have like a little bit of shading, but I don't want to get too heavy in there. So I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to shade in his mouth. There, how's that looking? Looking better? Now you can kind of come in, if you felt so interested to do so, you could kind of come in and do some detail work on his teeth. Give it like some little tiny lines, or maybe give some dots, just so it's not so glaring white. Now, if we were going to come in with color, like colored pencils or colored markers, then you wouldn't really have to be worrying about shading so much. Now, moving backwards, let's tidy this up. We have a lot of open white space here. And let's say he's a sea dragon, so he's got these kind of flipper kind of shapes on his head. These wouldn't have scales. These would kind of have lines. I'm going to give it some light lines so it almost looks like a flipper. And maybe give like a little bit of texture to the kind of like the bones, like the whiskers come out. Now moving up to his horns, see, these are really, really glaring white. So we're going to make some lines. Make the tip of it black. And moving down, give it some weight. Same with the next one. So what do you think? And if you feel like doing it, you can come down, and now that you've established, you know, like the head, and you've done all your ink work, you can come down and you can do your scales, just following down as you go. I think we'll stop right there because you get the idea. Tune in next time and maybe we'll draw a mermaid in the next edition of Art with Aron. Thanks for watching.